Right, we're gonna crack on then. So this week we're going to check in with our friendly NRL tipster. Some people say that the whole of Hogmanay in Edinburgh was cancelled because the sniper decided it should be cancelled and he wanted a private tour of Edinburgh Castle. All we know is he's called the Sniper.
Sniper, Happy New Year. It's great to have you back. Castleford Tigers are the team we're looking at. Who can you tell us that's coming in from the NRL for Castleford Tigers?
Well, they've got 4 great players. But how was your Christmas and New Year?
My Christmas was good. I did play a little bit of rugby, and I'm just itching. The season's only 5 weeks away now. That's my big focus now. Can't wait.
Right. Is this the Posh section of the show, by the way? Or is the whole show
Posh?
No.
This is definitely the Posh section of the show because we never got called Posh until you came on here, mate. Definitely not.
Right. You know what? We're so posh here at the Snipers Club. We've even got a butler. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Well, let me throw this out.
Her name's Mrs. Eccles. Mrs. Eccles.
I'll throw this out. I've got a live-in chef, a live-in trainer, and let's work it out. What we got now?
A gardener.
So 12 bedrooms. This is true. I remember I run residential retreats. And we used to run it from a manor house. And my son is like, he's like, you couldn't get any more like lower working class than my. And he used to go to school and be like, oh, what did you do this week? Oh, well, I was, I had to help out the chef. Oh, well, you got a chef? Yeah, I got a chef, yeah. And why were you doing that? Well, the trainers were busy. They were like, well, where do you live? And he was like, I live in a manor house. No one at school believed him, right? He got a terrible time, but it was true.
So I'm the only one without a fucking butler or a housekeeper or anything then. Right, okay.
You don't deserve a butler.
The poshest
Mrs. Eccles was... Yeah, Mrs. Eccles was originally Mr. Eccles, but she transitioned. You started wearing her sister's shoes, and then before you know it, she came downstairs one day, and it was, Mrs. Eccles, not Mr. Eccles. So I had to get used to that. But enough about our domestic arrangements.
Yeah, this is almost becoming as interesting as the bit. Getting more information on the snipers.
As we track him down bit by bit. So into the first player then, who have you got for Castleford Tigers?
We've got Zac Cini, 24 years old. He's predominantly a centre. He's not one that we've had our eye on. We've seen him play a few times. He's not in our black book.
Yeah.
He's not great in defence. And we think he's predominantly a cover signing. So just tiny snippet there. I think it's best to move on.
I'm just going to jump in on this guy. He has been given shirt number 3 for Cass, though, so they're clearly looking at him as a starting centre winger.
I think he's going to play at centre. I think he's much more likely to play at centre. He did have fairly big raps on him. A couple of the analysts in Australia really liked him. He hasn't really trained on. He's not as young. He's not that young anymore.
No.
So he hasn't impressed enough for me. He hasn't been in my notebook, and I just put a line through him.
Right.
So, I haven't got much to report on him, but the other players are very, very interesting.
Maybe
so I'd rather we spent more time on them.
Yep. Okay. So we'll move on to the next player then.
We'll move on to Jeremiah Simbiken. So he's going to be part of this PNG brigade in the Super League.
Yeah.
I think it was 10 the last time I counted, and we've got a few more that are coming in this season. Now, this guy we really, really like. Big, burly, strapping, powerful 2RF. He can play left or right. You'll have seen him play for the Cummels in the Pacific Championships.
Yeah.
He's a serious try threat. He's got a scoring rate of probably 1 in 2 or slightly better than that. He was born in PNG, but he moved to Canberra as a 10-year-old. And he almost gave up rugby league completely. He was working as an air conditioning technician. And then during COVID, he really struggled to find any club to take him on or to get a full-time contract. And he just thought, I'm going to quit this. I've had enough. And then he's come back bigger, stronger than ever. And I'm absolutely amazed that he wasn't signed by an NRL club. This guy has the potential to be a breakout 2RF for the season for Super League.
Yeah.
So we're super excited about seeing him. He did really well for the North Devils as well. towards the end of the season, and they used him really well. They kept trying to get the ball to him, make a sort of crash play close to the line. He'd score. He's agile, strong. He's got all the things that you'd be looking for in a 2RF. So big on him.
I watched some of his highlights from last season. The guy's an absolute unit, isn't he? He's really fast. He seems to be able to punch through a gap really well. Runs good tight lines. But one thing that did interest me about him, second row, but on some of his highlights, he was playing on the wing as well. So I don't know if he started as a winger early on his career, and he just got bigger and bigger, and they started playing him in the back row. But yeah, he looks like a great player, and I think Cass fans are going to be really excited to see him go next year.
For sure, yeah, really exciting. And the good thing with these two players, and I'm talking about Rimbu, who we'll come on to in a second, and Simbiken, is that for sure the market will underrate these players.
Yeah.
So guys, if you've got a black book, get your black books out, add these two names in there now, Simbiken, Rimbu, for sure. Because that's how you'll be making your money. Early in the season to mid-season, the bookies will cotton on to this by the time it gets to December or January, whenever.
Yeah.
You want to be backing these guys early, proper value, black book. And I'll tell you guys when these guys are black bookable. Yeah. So, yeah.
What you saying?
Love him.
Try scorers then, yeah?
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah, it seems
I'm more
highlights.
excited about Rimbu. Yeah.
The Simbiken, I mean, it seemed like that area sort of just to the 10 metres to the right of the opposition's post just seemed to be the pocket where he'd target, and I think if Castleford can get him there, with the power and pace, the sheer size of the guy, and the belief that he can score in that area as well, he's just going to be devastating for Cass. So, yeah, exciting prospect.
Right, on to Rimbu then,
they've already got Sylvester Namo there, haven't they?
Yeah.
He's part of the PNG brigade. You want to move on to Rimbu now, or do you want to do Daejarn Asi?
Let's go on to Rimbu.
Hooker, 23 years old. He scored 16 tries in 23 games last season, and he's played for PNG at all levels. He's even captained them. He's really strong. He's a great weapon from dummy half. He's best known for his speed coming out of the ruck.
Yeah.
And he's very much in the Edwin Ipape mould. But we think he's got even higher upside than Ipape. This guy is the real deal.
Interestingly, Cass have given him the number 14 shirt. I think Liam Horn has been given the number 9 shirt. So, I mean, what's your opinion? Do you think he's going to be their starting hooker?
I think Rimbu will end up at hooker. They'd be mad not to start him at hooker. But I think what they'll do is bring him on for impact initially, until he's fully match fit or settled at Castleford. But this guy is the real deal. We think he's better than Horn. So by 3-4 months in the season, he'll be the starting hooker. But it does make sense to bed him in slowly, make sure that he's comfortable with all the processes, all the combinations, make sure that everything's humming. Then you'll start to see him in the starting lineup. So, yeah, seriously talented, agile, strong. He's not the tallest. If you were to relate him to someone in terms of size and stature, it would probably Justin Olam from, he was predominantly a Melbourne Storm superstar. So if you guys follow the NRL, you'll know who we're talking about. So super excited about Rimbu. He can play halfback, so he's not the tallest, but he's ripped, he's powerful, he's agile. He can play at halfback, but we definitely have him as starting hooker.
I think for me, Rimbu, if he can be anything like a Pape, then he's going to be so exciting for the Castleford crowd. I can imagine now, like trying to tackle someone like this, just absolutely feels like granite and like breaks your shoulder. But then on the same token, can just cut people in half as well. So, I'm really excited to see this guy play.
It looks like he likes broken play. So whenever there's a marker not quite square or anything like that, you get a quick play of the ball. He's one of them players that just looks really direct and just go straight at the defence. I think he'll cause some problems for some Super League defences next year.
Did you see him in the Pacific Championships? Did you keep an eye out for him?
Yeah, I saw a couple of the games. I think it was the Cook Islands game. I think he absolutely ripped it up in that one. Yeah, he's got speed to burn for such a small guy.
He came off the bench and robbed a try from Roderick Tai. And I'm not that big on Roderick Tai. I think he's just a bit of a workhorse, But this guy is great. And it's worth keeping an eye on hookers like this against the weaker sides in the Super League. So you want to be taking them to score tries against really the bottom of the table, because this guy will mop up. So again, just like Simbiken, he'll be underrated by the market. You'll get great odds, great prices early in the season. Back him, don't wait.
Perfect.
And by the way, it's unbelievable that a team like Canberra didn't sign Judah Rimbu, because they're playing with Danny Levi at hooker.
Yeah.
And Danny Levi is so poor in so many departments. It's a massive oversight by many NRL clubs not to have signed Judah Rimbu. So Castleford have got an absolute gem there. He's my favourite of the four, by the way.
Well, why do you think they've passed over? Passed him over, like, just because we've talked about two PNG players there, and it's like, well, why are they getting ignored?
If I had to guess, I'd say there was a very prominent agent that has signed 10 players to Super League already.
Yeah, and
they're trying to make a bit of a gang out of them. Yeah, so. The other guys are enjoying themselves, doing really well. We've got a really good arrangement with Super League. Why don't you come over and check it out, see how you go, and then use that as a stepping stone to a full NRL career in 2 or 3 years' time.
Yeah.
The other issue that's going to happen at the moment is you've got, the PNG team starting up from 2028 onwards. Yeah. So how are these Super League teams going to be able to retain these PNG players when that actually starts? Is that going to be the next move for them? Is it going to be Super League to PNG Hunters or whatever name they decide to give that team? It could well be. So it's almost a breeding ground, Super League, for what's going to come and get those players ready for the NRL in 2028.
Yeah, I like it.
Shall we move on?
Yes.
So the last player, Daejarn Asi.
Yeah.
Very exciting player, 24 years old. He's a Kiwi. He was born in Christchurch. And he's one of those players that feels like he's been around forever. He's predominantly a half, but he can play anywhere in the back line. He's creative. He's got an excellent kicking game. He can unlock defences, but he's not at that elite level yet. So if you think to yourselves, why have the Parrot Eels released him? It's because you've got two superstars playing in the halves already. You've got Mitch Moses and you've got Dylan Brown. So he's going to struggle to get into the team or get regular playing time as long as they're fit.
Yeah.
So he thought, it's time for me to make a move, get my career going. And, Super League was a logical move for him. He's been regularly targeted in defence by opposition teams, so he's not very good in defence. I did have a look at some stats for you guys. So dug deep into the stats book. He played 14 times last season. He caused 9 tries and he made 11 errors in defence. So that's not great. You're looking at about, he's causing 0.8 tries per game or something. He scored 3 tries, made 5 try assists and had 4 line breaks.
Yeah.
So again, this was with the Para Eels team that was struggling. But he's a good player in attack.
Those stats aren't great, but I've watched his highlight reel, and I think this guy looks electric.
Yeah.
If I was a Cas fan, I'm excited to watch this guy come over next year. They've given him a number 6 shirt, so they're clearly looking at him as the first choice standoff. Him paired with Rowan Milnes, who's quite a steady Eddie player, he's quite a decent organiser. Paired with this guy who's the complete opposite of him, he looks like he's a bit of a strike force. I'd be excited to watch this next year, and I think Cass could have picked up a bit of a gem here.
The good thing is he's young, and he does have X Factor. That X Factor hasn't been unlocked yet.
Yeah.
In the NRL.
No.
So if they can unlock that, he could be a really, really good star, a really good player for Castleford, and he could be that missing link that they need to really get the tries flowing. So, he's exciting. It's just a question of how he beds in and how he fits in within their system, and whether the coaches and the head coach can find those little 1 and 2 percenters that can allow him to express himself, because he's a really good ball player, And I think he's really good, but he needs to work on his defense. He's going to be targeted.
Yeah.
So those are the two areas. Unlock the creativity, let him be a maverick, but at the same time, work on your defense. Those are the two most important things I'd say for Daejarn Asi.
Right.
Well, and it's, obviously the compounding effect of being having like a weakness within defence is the fact that you can bring around penalties, give away penalties, and that really, you do 2 or 3 of them on the trot and you can literally just give games to the opposition, can't you? So I think they're forced to recruit like this. I think if they were further up the table now, they could go, do you know what I mean? We'll perhaps pick someone who's a consistent performer that doesn't give away many errors. They've had to go like, right, let's get someone who's potentially got the X factor. Let's try and unlock that with Danny Maguire as a coach, and maybe we'll pick up some penalties, but perhaps we can get that out of his game. Is that all or nothing, if you like?
Yeah, I think it is all or nothing for Cass with these signings. I think that if they have really picked up some decent finds that, gone under the radar a little bit, we could see Cass do pretty well next year. I mean, let's face it, they didn't have a great season last year. I mean, bookies have got them to finish second from bottom at 66-1. But I'm excited to watch to see what comes of this Cass team next year.
Yeah.
Guys, these are diamonds in the rough.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. We are NRL insiders. We know what we're talking about. We watch every league. We watch the Queensland Cup, the Host Plus Cup, all of that stuff. I'd say 80% of NRL enthusiasts wouldn't know these players. I can tell you personally, these are diamonds in the rough. The recruitment has been excellent. Yeah. And we've gone through a lot of teams so far. And if I was going to be recruiting, this is the exact profile of player that I'd be recruiting.
Yeah.
They're the right age. They're going to be hungry. The talent's there. That's exactly what you need. Now, a question of whether they can settle or not in England is another story. Because, the climate's very different. But they do have the makings of 3 excellent players at least out of those 4. So, and the PNG guys have got their mates there as well. So it'll be much easier for them to settle. So I love this. Whoever's done the recruitment at Cass has done a wonderful job. Super exciting, underrated by the market. And yeah, it's going to be really, really good to watch the next season.
It's going to be really good to see Rimbu and Simbiken stood on the pitch in February, when the league kicks off, and they're like, what the fuck have we done? We could, absolutely torrential rain and wind. Very exciting, really good. Okay, so with those incredible signings from the NRL, as listed by the sniper there, Cal, you've also taken this opportunity to pick out a few players that people think, or do you think that people should be keeping an eye on, ones to watch for Castleford Tigers in 2025.
Yeah, so I picked 5 players out, just people to watch next year. Some of these have been around the league for quite a few years. Tex Hoy at fullback, thought he had a good season last year in a team that wasn't really doing that well. I think with a bit of more platform this year, if they sort the halfback pairing out this year, I think they'll unlock him, and I'm looking forward to watching him play.
Well, I think they will, because they've got Danny Maguire, you've got a halfback head coach now, you know what I mean? And we've seen other halfbacks.
Yeah, Scott Morrell as well in the background.
So, they're not going to build a team, come on, speak. Yeah. They're going to build a team around like a big forward pack, like say Lee Radford would or something like that. This is going to be attractive play, mega supporting play, Danny Maguire-esque. So they're lining up Tex Hoy for a great season.
Yeah, if he links up well with Asi, could be dynamite next year. It could be like watching the Castleford of old, when we had like Rangi Chase ripping it up. Anyway, Gary on the wing, he's been given the number 2 shirt this year. Yeah. So I think he was like on the fringes last year, but he had such a great season, didn't he? They brought him in. He's going to clearly be the starting winger this year. And then a bit of a number 18, Josh Hodgson, player from the West Midlands that we've spoke about before, didn't really get much of a chance last year, which surprised me actually, because Craig Lingard brought him over from Batley, and I thought he was going to get a lot of game time last year. Didn't really happen. He's a prolific try scorer, so I think he's the one to watch next year for Castleford Tigers. If he gets some decent game time, could be interested to see what he does. So they're giving him number 18 shirt, so he's clearly on the fringes of that starting lineup now. Rowan Mills, I think he's going to pair really well with Asi. I think they've got the balance right there between the two players, which is often as important just as having a decent player, isn't he? You half-back pairing, I think you've always got to have a...
Oh, if the chemistry's wrong, you don't stand a chance.
No.
Because they'll hug the ball, they'll be selfish instead of being unselfish, So, yeah, definitely the chemistry's got to be right.
And I think Danny Maguire might have got that right. And then number 13, Joe Westerman, he had a awful start to last season, which we don't want to go into. But as the year kept going, he was one player who just kept grinding it out. And I think besides the players we spoke about, Cass have brought in quite a few youngsters. So I think an experienced head like him, he's been around the block plenty of times, literally.
Terrible.
I think he's a experienced player that's going to help Cass next year. So they're the 5 to watch that I've pulled out.
Brilliant. Okay, and that's a regular feature that we're going to bring into our show as well. When we're doing these NRL best signings and all that kind of thing, we will give you players that we think you should watch as well. So stick with us for that.